Long ago, in a dusty village surrounded by tall grass and old baobab trees, there lived a man named Suleiman. He was poor, not the kind of poor that misses one meal, but the kind that follows a man from sunrise to sleep. His roof leaked during the rains. His children wore torn clothes. Some nights, the cooking pot stayed empty while his wife, Mariam, pretended she was not hungry so the children could eat the little that remained. Still, Suleiman worked hard. Every morning before dawn, while the sky was still dark blue and the cold wind moved softly across the fields, he carried his hoe to the farm. But no matter how much he struggled, life refused to open its doors for him. One year, floods destroyed his crops. The next year, sickness carried away his cattle. Then debts came. People began saying quietly, "It is as if the earth itself refuses to bless Suleiman." Those words entered his heart like thorns. One evening, after another day of disappointment, Suleiman sat alone outside his hut. The moon was bright, but its light brought him no comfort. The night air was heavy and strangely still. Even the crickets seemed silent. Then an old traveler appeared on the road. His clothes were dark and dusty, and his walking stick made a slow sound against the earth. The old man stopped before Suleiman and asked softly, "Why does sorrow sit beside you like a brother?" Suleiman lowered his head. "I work harder than many men, yet my children sleep hungry. I am tired of struggling." The old man watched him carefully for a long moment. Then he said, "There are doors that hard work cannot open." Those words remained in Suleiman's mind long after the traveler disappeared into the darkness. A few weeks later, Suleiman secretly left the village at night. He traveled deep into the forest where people rarely went. There, hidden among twisted trees and black stones, lived a man whispered about in silence, a spirit worker known for granting wealth through forbidden rituals. The old spirit worker listened quietly while Suleiman spoke about his suffering. When Suleiman finished, the old man asked, "If wealth comes but peace leaves, will you still accept the bargain?" Suleiman answered too quickly, "A poor man cannot afford to think about peace." The old man's eyes became heavy with sadness. Many have said those same words. But Suleiman's desperation had already blinded him. That night, under a sky covered with thick clouds, the ritual was performed. The wind blew strangely through the trees. Owls cried in the darkness. The old spirit worker drew symbols on the ground while speaking words that sounded older than the village itself. Before dawn, Suleiman returned home carrying a small leather charm wrapped in red cloth. The spirit worker had warned him, "Do not speak of this to anyone. Wealth will come. But remember, everything that enters a man's life asks for space. If wealth enters through darkness, something else must leave." At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, life changed. A trader unexpectedly offered Suleiman a business opportunity. The business grew quickly. Money began flowing like river water during the rainy season. He built a large house with shining windows and painted walls. He bought cattle, land, and expensive clothes. People looked at him with amazement. Children pointed at his compound saying, "Look how blessed Suleiman has become." Even the village elders praised him. They invited him to sit among important men. And during the day, Suleiman smiled proudly. But at night, silence changed inside that house. Mariam noticed it first. Their youngest child began waking in the middle of the night crying at empty corners of the room. Strange footsteps could sometimes be heard on the roof though no one was there. The air inside the house often felt cold even during hot nights. Then came the dreams. Suleiman would wake up sweating heavily, staring into darkness without speaking. Sometimes Mariam found him sitting outside before dawn, breathing hard as though someone had called his name in sleep. When she asked what troubled him, he replied sharply, "A rich man carries many thoughts." But deep inside, he remembered the old spirit worker's warning. As the years passed, the wealth increased, but joy disappeared slowly from the house. His eldest son became violent and uncontrollable. His daughter fell into strange sadness and stopped speaking much. Arguments entered the family like smoke slipping through cracks. Food remained plenty on the table, but nobody ate with peace anymore. Visitors admired the beautiful house, yet inside it felt heavy, as though the walls themselves were listening. One night, during a powerful storm, lightning struck a tree near the compound. Thunder shook the entire village. At that exact moment, Suleiman heard a voice inside his room whisper, "Everything has a price." From that night onward, sleep abandoned him completely. Mariam finally confronted him one evening. Rain was falling softly outside. The lantern flame moved gently in the wind coming through the window. She looked at him with tired eyes and asked quietly, "What entered this house with our wealth?" Suleiman remained silent. Then she whispered, "This is not the peace we prayed for." For the first time in many years, Suleiman broke down and cried. He confessed everything, the forest, the ritual, the charm hidden beneath the house. Mariam stared at him as though seeing a stranger. "You fed our future to darkness," she said softly. From that moment, things worsened quickly. His businesses collapsed unexpectedly. His cattle died from sickness. People who once praised him began turning away. Then tragedy entered fully. One son disappeared during the rainy season and was never found. Another became sick in the mind, wandering the village speaking to himself. Mariam's heart grew weak from sorrow. She died quietly one cold morning before sunrise. And suddenly, Suleiman's large house became emptier than his old leaking hut had ever been. Years later, the wealthy man people once admired sat alone in silence. The walls of the great house were cracked. Grass grew wildly around the compound. Children passing nearby whispered, "That is Suleiman's house, the house where joy died." One evening, as the sun disappeared behind dark clouds, Suleiman dragged himself back into the forest searching for the old spirit worker. But he found only ruins and broken stones. No voice answered him. No help came. The wind moved heavily through the trees as if the forest itself no longer welcomed him. Suleiman fell to his knees and whispered with tears, "I wanted wealth, but I did not know I was trading away my life." Not long after that, he died alone. And the villagers spoke about him for generations. They would point at abandoned wealth and say, "Everyone thought he was blessed." Then the elders would add quietly, "Not every shining thing carries light. Some riches arrive holding darkness in their shadow. A man may gain the whole village and still lose the peace of his own soul." Moral of the story: not every blessing comes from goodness. Some wealth enters through doors that should never be opened. And when peace leaves a home, even gold begins to feel cold.
Wow, بين المشرق بين المشرق عبد العزيز تبع سما خريا من الجنة الورد. واو بين المشرق بين المشرق عبد العزيز تبع سما خريا من